Welcome back to A Considerate Life. Today I want to talk about, as promised, why children should not be considered communal property. Now, the reason I say this is that a few weeks ago, my wife and I were watching YouTube, watching some news on YouTube, and there was a board meeting out in a school, I think it was in California, where the parents were pretty upset at the school board because apparently this was an elementary school kid. They had allowed an LGBTQ student club. The announcement about this club just happened to be left off of the announcements about all the clubs coming out. The teacher, the faculty leader, was able to come into classrooms and let the students know that they could join the Free to Be Me group, focused on gender identity, sexual orientation issues for elementary school kids. And so I just sort of watched that video or watched that news with my wife. A few days later, was watching School of Rock, and I was thinking, this is what's going on in School of Rock. Jack Black's character is teaching these kids music instead of any useful school subjects like science and English and math. He's teaching them music. And then one interesting scene is when Jack Black asks the students whether or not they have any musical interest. One girl says Christina Aguilera, another guy says Puff Daddy, and Jack Black says, no, this is the kind of music you should be listening to. And he gives them Blondie and, some of this like death metal that he's into. Our kids, when we send them off to our public schools, they're in a vulnerable position. The teachers are in a position of authority, and they're disseminating their own ideas, and in this case, apart from or absent the parents being informed about that, which is the same thing that's going on in School of Rock. So it made me think of this attitude toward children in the public sphere. And it seemed to me that somebody who does this, somebody who thinks that it's okay to not tell the parents about asking elementary school kids to join a club that's focused on issues of gender identity and human sexuality, they treat kids as if they're part of this sort of public property, communal property. And I know some of the justification for that might be this proverbial, well, it takes a village to raise a child. Parents don't just raise a child on their own. It takes a village. Well, there's for two things. Number one, there's a problem with proverbial reasoning. And the reason is this. You can use proverbs to support diametrically opposed ideas in the same event. What I mean by that is this. Take these two proverbs. Many hands make light work. And this other proverb, too many cooks spoil the broth. Right? These are two proverbs. One indicates that when there's some task to be done, more people working at that task is better. The other says that if you have too many people working at a certain thing, it actually spoils the product, right? So which is true? More people or less people, right? And the answer is it depends. If you're trying to clean up a park and just doing some rudimentary physical labor, then yes, many hands make light work. The more people we have, the sooner it'll get done. But if you're doing something creative, maybe producing a short film or something like that, you don't want a dozen directors because their creative interests will go in different ways and it will ruin the project, right? So this is what I think about this sort of proverbial, well, it takes a village to raise a child. That's true in as far as it goes. And what it means is this. Parents are benefited, their children are benefited by a community of adults, right? This is how I think of our extended family, right? And our church and things like that. But it doesn't just mean that our children belong to everyone. And I want to put a finer point on this analysis by recognizing certain things. There is a connection between creation and certain ramifications of it, that parents create their children. They make them, right? And there are some things in our culture that go along with making something, that creating something, that are sort of baked into the way our culture thinks about things. The first is intellectual property, right? If you make something, you own it, right? This is why we have copyright laws and intellectual property laws. The assumption is if you made that thing, if you made something, then it belongs to you, and it belongs to you exclusively unless you give the okay for it to be utilized by somebody else. And that's what we're doing in public school. We're saying these children belong to us, but we are, in a limited sense, giving them over to your care. They don't belong to you. They're ours. Creation implies love. If we go back to a video that I did where we talk about what are angels, and we talk about why angels are not to be considered children of God, one of the things that it means for humans to be made in the image of God is that we are makers. We make children and we make things, artifacts, right? And the implication is that we love those things that we make. And in fact, when a parent does not inherently love their children, we think that there's something wrong. So creation implies love. But sending our children off to school, there's no guarantee that there's going to be a genuine, other-centered well-being focus for our kids. And my suspicion is that these teachers or administrators that are engaging in this kind of activity, what they love is not our children, but they love the idea of having access to molding their minds so that they think in a certain way. And that's not love. That's power and control, which we said in this other video on spiritual warfare is a hellish value. These are hellish values, desiring power and control over someone. Creation also implies responsibility, right? So if a man and a woman who are not married beget children, the man is financially responsible for taking care of those kids, right? Because creation implies responsibility. This is what paternity suits are for. Is this man the father of this child, or is he not? If he is the father, the co-creator, right, the co-maker of this child, then it implies responsibility. So, and then when there's the absence of taking responsibility, people get sued for child support. Parents get sued for abandonment or neglect of their children because creation implies responsibility. So this is what I see in this dynamic of seeing children as communal property. It violates the fundamental aspects of these ties between creation and ownership, creation and love, and creation and responsibility. These children that the administration and teachers did not create want to have creator rights to them. Because I think, because some of their ideas are not, they're volatile and they are debated hotly in the public square. They're trying to circumvent the aspect of public debate over these ideas and go straight to children who are practically defenseless in terms of the kind of vulnerability that they have, their minds have in front of these teachers that are rightly regarded as authority figures. But they're authority figures in terms of teaching them English and science and math and geography, right? They're not authority figures in terms of telling them who they are in the world. That is a creator right. That's a right that the parents have in the child's life, not the children. So that's just a short video on why I think viewing children as communal property, especially in the context of sending our children off to public schools. School administrators and teachers do not have the creator rights to our children. We do. Having brought up public education and the public square and what is good and just or unjust in the public square, I want to talk about next time why conservatives boycott. Because I think I have some ideas about what it is about brands taking sides in cultural issues that causes these boycotts. We'll talk about that next time.